So, I don't know what I was. Hello. So, I don't know what I was going to talk about today. But I was looking in Matthew 11. No, hold on. Matthew 15. And this seems to be a common theme throughout the Bible. But beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are raving wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits they shall be known. So, Jesus is talking about trees and fruits. So how does that pertain to us? Well, it says in Psalms 1:8 that man's like a tree, and in Mark 8, I think, when Jesus heals a blind man, he's not quite seeing everything clearly yet, and so he's like, I see men, they're just trees. And so when he refers to trees and fruit, we're talking about men and their actions, or how you can judge them, like men and their actions. So a good tree produces good fruit. A bad tree produces bad fruit. Seems pretty easy. But how do we produce good fruit? Do we follow the law of Moses? What do we do? We have to love each other. We have to love our neighbors like ourselves. We have to love God. We have to just follow the 10 Commandments. Half of them are loving God, half of them are loving people. So we're going to obviously produce good fruit. But that's not it at all. The fruit I believe they're referring to is the fruit of the Spirit. So if you're a good fruit, you're producing joy, love, peace, patience, understanding, long-suffering, all that stuff. And so that's going to produce good fruit. But what if you can't produce good fruit by keeping the law of Moses, because the law of Moses is just a covering. It's not actually fruit. It's a fig tree just covered with fig leaves, and that's not good. Because there's a parable, not even a parable. There's a story where Jesus is going into a town. It's in Mark 11. It's right before have faith in God, move mountains, all that stuff. Which is all good, don't get me wrong. I'm just talking about something else. So, beginning of this, and towards the beginning of Mark 11, Jesus and his disciples are going into a town, and they see this fig tree, and they go up to it, and it doesn't have any fruit on it. It's all just leaves. And so Jesus curses it, says, you won't produce fruit anymore, just dry up, wither away, and then they go on their way. So then the next day, or maybe a couple of days later, they're leaving the town, and it's the next day. They're leaving town, and the fig tree is dried up, dead, completely just not good. And the disciples are amazed that Jesus just used his words to speak to this tree, and it dried up. And so you would think like, oh, well, we can kill plants with our words. We should be good gardeners. And just what does that mean? So if we use the law of first mention, whatever, and that basically says the first time a concept or something is introduced in the Bible, that's the way it's to be used each time it's mentioned in the rest of the Bible. So for the first time fig leaves are mentioned or in Genesis. And that's when Adam and Eve invited sin into the world. And so they tried to cover up their sin by covering themselves with fig leaves. And so fig leaves are a type of law or something to cover sin. So using those definitions I've just kind of described to and add it to the story of the fig tree that dries up by its fruit, you could say Jesus is walking into town. He sees some guy standing over there. He goes over to this guy, and he's just covered up with no fruit. He's not living by the Spirit. He's only living by the law. That's why he only has fig leaves to cover his sin. So Jesus comes back. He curses him, comes back, and the guy's dead. Where was I going with that? So we had a fig tree with no fruit, just leaves, just the law. And so that's and so Jesus says, even so, every tree that bringeth not good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. So basically, produce good fruit, live by the Spirit, and you won't be cast into the fire. If you just live by the law or become a disciple of Moses and try to follow his teachings, then you're just going to be covered with fig leaves, and God's going to cast you into the fire. So live by the Spirit and produce fruit. So then I can go into something else. I have a couple minutes. So going back to Mark 11, it says, Jesus is saying it's about having faith in God, which is what's going to produce good fruit. And then you can speak to the mountain, be cast into the sea, and it'll go to the sea, however it says. So I don't see anywhere in the Bible about Jesus casting anything. But if you look up that word cast, it's also translated in a couple other verses as the word bear. So Jesus is saying, if you have faith in God, you can bear a mountain. And that lines up with Scripture, because love bears all things. And so that's just a little side note and a little extra tidbit. Don't be trying to move stuff out of your life. Bear it. Because the working of your faith produces patience, produces all this stuff. James 1:2-4, perseverance. It produces, anyways, it leads to perfection. And so it's a struggle in life that makes life worth living, because it perfects you. You're perfected through your struggles. You're not perfected by having everything given to you. I don't know. So I'll leave you with that. Have a good day. Produce good fruit. And just produce fruit. Don't be covered with fig leaves.